Hello and welcome back to I Completed 80s Music and the second half of Playlist 24. I'm the 80s mixtaper, your musical librarian, offering the best and biggest songs from the most colourful catalogue of music in pop, while occasionally taking you through to the forbidden section at the back for the bonkers stuff too. On today's show, we have a smorgasbord of music for your delectation as we enter late May 1981, including George Harrison's reflection on John Lennon and possibly high points for three singers and bands, Hazel O'Connor, Randy Crawford and Odyssey. Unfortunately, we can't play the songs on the show due to pesky copyright laws, but you will find playlists for both Spotify and Apple Music in the episode description plus a full track listing so you can listen along with the show in real time. But before we jump into this week with both feet, I want to talk to you about the piano. Hey music lovers, I started piano lessons at 6 and those keys felt like pure magic. But when exams came, I stepped away and I've always wished I'd kept going, especially with my love for music. That's why I'm thrilled to share Victoria Clark Piano, where Victoria helps pianists of all ages find that same magic. Since 2007, Victoria's been coaching students with a passion that's contagious. She sees piano as mindfulness, a way to escape life stresses and express emotions words can't touch. It's like a steady friend, always there through life's ups and downs. Her lessons are all about you, tailored to your unique style, mixing improvisation, composition and playing by ear, with reading music for a well-rounded experience. Exams are great for tracking progress, but Victoria's focus is diving deep into each piece, building skills and confidence that shines beyond the piano. Her students have the opportunity to perform at an annual summer recital or the Portsmouth Festival of Performing Arts, sharing their music in a warm, supportive setting. And aspiring piano teachers, Victoria's got your back. Her piano teacher blog and Instagram page are packed with fresh ideas to inspire your students and practical tips to grow your studio, whether you're just starting or a seasoned pro. Join her private Facebook group to connect with other teachers and grab her free studio policy template to streamline your business. With her Cert PTC qualification, Independent Society of Musicians membership and enhanced DBS certificate for safeguarding, Victoria's the real deal and she can knock out a fantastic version of Black Velvet by Alana Miles too. Ready to play or teach? Visit victoriaclarkpiano.com or Victoria Clark Piano on Instagram to book a lesson or explore her resources today. Trust me, you'll wish you'd started sooner. Now let's get back to the music. Alright folks, let's start today with Split Enz, that gloriously weird New Zealand crew who stormed into our hearts with their 1980 banger, I Got You. That song was a rocket, number 1 in Australia, New Zealand and Canada, cracking the UK at number 12 and even sniffing the US Billboard Hot 100 at number 53. Neil Finn, the younger Finn brother, wrote that earworm and it felt like Split Enz had finally cracked the code, moving from their quirky art rock roots to a sleek power pop juggernaut on their True Colours album. So what's next? They drop History Never Repeats in March 1981, the second single from their follow-up album, Waiata, and it's a song that's a head-scratcher. It's catchy, it's clever, it's got that Split Enz DNA, yet it didn't quite ride the wave of I Got You. Let's figure out why it didn't soar as high and why Split Enz couldn't quite capitalise on their big moment. This is track 8, playlist 24, and by the way, if you've followed the pod since the beginning, congratulations, this is song 300. History Never Repeats is Neil Finn's baby, written under pressure to follow up the monster success of I Got You. Picture him in Perth on tour, wrestling with the ghost of that hit. He's lying awake as he sings in the song, Deep in the Night It's All So Clear, I lie awake with great ideas. The lyrics are about shaking off the past, about not getting stuck in the ruts of old heartbreaks or creative slumps. The opening lines set the tone. History repeats, I'll tell myself before I go to sleep. Don't say the words you might regret. I lost before, you know I can't forget. It's a pep talk to himself, a vow to move forward, whether it's about a girl who dealt my love a savage blow, or his own fear of writing a song that's just I Got You Part 2. The guitar bridge, by the way, is a sly nod to an old Phil Judd tune, Bergen and Z, though Split Enz only played that one live. The song's a banger, top 10 in New Zealand and Australia, but it hit number 63 on the UK singles chart, sticking around for 4 weeks. Not particularly great and not I Got You numbers. The video, pure Split Enz madness. It was one of the first clips ever played on MTV when the channel launched in August 1981, the first by a non-American or British act. Neil Finn wakes up in bed, stumbles through surreal scenes, rocking the band's signature chic outfits, think bright suits, wild hair, and a vibe that screams, "We're not taking this too seriously." MTV loved it, putting it into heavy rotation, but radio, not so much, especially in the US, where it didn't chart at all. So why didn't Split Enz ride the I Got You wave to global domination? First, the band's vibe was still too eccentric for mainstream America. They ditched their previous get-ups of the 70s for a cleaner 80s look, but that quirky energy, those theatrical performances, the art rock residue didn't scream radio-friendly on US stations. Waiata itself was a solid album, hitting number 1 in Australia and New Zealand and cracking the US top 50, but it lacked the universal hook of True Colours. History Never Repeats is great, but it's not as immediate as I Got You, with its nervy verses and slightly less anthemic chorus. The band's New Zealand roots didn't help either. Being from the edge of the world meant they were always fighting to be taken seriously outside Australasia. Then there's the internal stuff. By 1981, cracks were forming. Drummer Malcolm Green left after Waiata, and the band shuffled on as a 5-piece, with percussionist Noel Crombie taking over drums. Tim Finn, the older brother and co-frontman, was already eyeing a solo career. His 1983 album Escapade would pull him away, and by 1984 Split Enz was done. Neil Finn later admitted the band felt like it was losing steam, and he wasn't keen to keep it going without Tim or co-founder Phil Judd. The pressure to replicate I Got You was real, and while History Never Repeats was a hit in their home turf, it didn't have the global legs to push Split Enz into the stratosphere. Still, this is a great song. It's got that high, jangly energy, those triplets in the verses that mess with your rhythm in the best way, and a chorus that feels like a call to arms. History never repeats, and there's a light shining in the dark, leading me on towards a change of heart. It's Split Enz being colourful, introspective, and just a bit spiritual. They may not have capitalised on I Got You, but they left us this gem, a song that's still got people singing along on road trips or digging through vinyl bins for Waiata. And yeah, Neil Finn would take that energy to Crowded House, but that's another story. We say goodbye to them now. For track 9, we introduced another of the Beatles. We've met Paul, we met John, and now we meet George Harrison. 1981 was a year raw with grief and reckoning. We zero in on George Harrison's All Those Years Ago, a single that's less a song and more an at-the-graveside letter to a lost friend. Let's get into his history, Beatle, solo artist, spiritual seeker, before diving into this track, a tribute to John Lennon that's got Ringo Starr's drums, Paul McCartney's voice, and a whole lot of heart. Buckle up, because this one's a ride through memory, music, and mourning. This is track 9. George Harrison, born February the 25th, 1943 in Liverpool, was the youngest Beatle, the one they called the quiet one, though that label never quite fit. He grew up in a working-class family, picked up a guitar as a teen, and by 1958 he was playing well enough to catch the eye of Paul McCartney, who brought him to John Lennon's skiffle group, the Quarrymen. Lennon thought 15-year-old George was too young, but the kid's chops won him over. By the time the Quarrymen morphed into the Beatles, George was their lead guitarist, laying down riffs and contributing songs like Taxman and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. His fascination with Indian music, sparked by a sitar he stumbled across on the set of Help, brought a new sonic edge to the band, from Within You Without You to The Inner Light. He became a mystic in a leather jacket, pushing the Beatles' sound towards something nobody else was touching. When the Fab Four split in 1970, George didn't miss a beat. His triple album All Things Must Pass dropped that year, a sprawling masterpiece co-produced with Phil Spector, packed with hits like My Sweet Lord and What Is Life. It went 6 times platinum, outshining anything his bandmates were doing. He organised the concert for Bangladesh in 1971, the first major charity rock event, roping in stars like Eric Clapton and Bob Dylan. Through the 70s, he kept churning out albums. Living in the Material World in 1973 hit number 1 with Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, though later efforts like Dark Horse in 74 and Extra Texture in 1975 took some critical heat. He launched Dark Horse Records, married Olivia Arias in 1978, had a son Danny, and poured himself into gardening at his Friar Park estate. By 1980, he was a man balancing music, family, and a growing frustration with the industry. Enter All Those Years Ago, released in May the 11th, 1981, as the lead single from Somewhere in England. This wasn't another track, it was George's response to John's murder on December the 8th, 1980. Originally written for Ringo Starr, the song had different lyrics, but Ringo found the vocal range too high and the words off target. After Lennon's death, George rewrote it as a tribute, keeping Ringo's drum track and recording it at Friar Park in November 1980. He brought in Paul McCartney, Linda McCartney and Wings' Denny Laine for backing vocals in early 81, making it the first time the 3 surviving Beatles, George, Paul and Ringo, played together since I, Me, Mine in 1970. Al Cooper laid down electric piano, Herbie Flowers handled bass and Ray Cooper added tambourine. George Martin and Geoff Emerick, Beatles veterans, were there too, though the session was meant for Paul's Tug of War album until George flipped it into a vocal take for this track. The lyrics were like a conversation with a ghost. I'm shouting all about love. Well, they treated you like a dog. When you were the one who had made it so clear all those years ago, George sings, calling out the world's hypocrisy towards Lennon. He nods to All You Need Is Love with You point the way to the truth when you say all you need is love, and to Imagine with You were the one who imagined it all. There's a spiritual edge too. George, the Hindu devotee, sings, They've forgotten all about God. He's the only reason we exist, a line that reflects his beliefs more than Lennon's agnosticism. It's not preachy though, it's George wrestling with loss, faith, and the cruelty of a world that backed you up to the wall. The song's vibe is buoyant yet heavy, with George's fluid guitar lines and keyboard work weaving through Ringo's steady beat. It's catchy but not glib, mournful but not maudlin. Released in the US on May the 11th and the UK on May the 15th, it climbed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, stuck behind Kim Carnes' Betty Davis Eyes, and hit number 13 on the UK singles chart. It topped Canada's RPM chart and Billboard's Adult Contemporary list for a week. The music video, a slideshow of Lennon stills mixed with George's, kept the focus on the tribute. Critically, it was a win. Record World called it a buoyant reminiscence, and AOL Radio later ranked it 6th amongst George's best. This track is more George mourning John. It's a snapshot of a man who'd spent years chasing peace, only to face the violent loss of a friend he looked up to. Living with good and bad, I always looked up to you, he sings, and you feel the ache of a younger brother losing a guide. It's raw, real, and a reminder that even legends bleed. For George, it was a moment to honour John, reconnect with Paul and Ringo, and say something true in a world that felt like a bad dream. Next for track 10, we're back, possibly for the final time, with a certain Hazel O'Connor. For the moment most Hazel O'Connor fans have been waiting for. Will You? Last time we hung out with Hazel, she was tearing through the UK charts with D-Days, that nervy, defiant banger from her Breaking Glass soundtrack, peaking at number 10. Now we're sinking into the delicious slow burn of Will You, her other top 10 hit from that same year, cresting at number 8 on the UK singles chart. This is Hazel at her most vulnerable, her most cinematic, and let's just say it, her most devastating. It's a song that feels like a late night confession in a smoky bar, and it's got that saxophone solo that'll make your knees buckle. But it's also the end of something, her last top 10 hit, just a year into her supernova moment. So let's unpack this gem, riff on that sax, and figure out why Hazel's chart reign fizzled so fast. It's 1981 and Hazel O'Connor is fresh off her Star Turner's Kate in Breaking Glass, the punk rock film that made her a name. She's not just acting, she wrote and performed the soundtrack, a bold move for a 26-year-old who's been hustling since her teens, from Amsterdam street markets to Tokyo dance troupes. Will You is one of 12 tracks from that soundtrack, but it's the oddball, not written for the film. Hazel penned it years earlier, a delicate ballad she was almost embarrassed to play live. Not the kind of material I sang at gigs, she said in her 1981 autobiography. Too soft, too raw for a support act trying to rile up a crowd. Yet in Breaking Glass it lands like the worst heartbreak you've ever experienced. There's a scene where Hazel's Kate, voice trembling, sings to Phil Daniels' Danny, their manager sing a tension bubbling over into something tender. The lyrics hit like a whispered plea. You drink your coffee, I sip my tea, and we're sitting here playing so cool, thinking what will be will be. It's understated, almost conversational, but it's the longing that's harrowing. It's getting kinda late now. I wonder if you'll stay now, or will you just politely say goodbye? And then, oh man, that saxophone. Wesley McGugan steps in with a solo that's less a performance, more a full body sobbing of notes. It's mournful, soaring, like the sound of a heart cracking open. McGugan, part of Hazel's band Mega Hype, weaves this aching jazzy line that's elevating the song from intimate to eternal. It's a moment that sticks, the kind you rewind just to feel again and again. Sax players on forums like Sax on the Web obsess over transcribing it. It's a character in the song, carrying the weight of unspoken love, and then it allows you to choose your own outcome, unbridled passion, or the loss of the polite goodbye. So why was this Hazel's last top 10 hit? Breaking Glass was a rocket ship soundtrack, hitting number 5, certified gold, 38 weeks on the UK albums chart. Eighth Day and Will You both cracked the top 10, with D-Days close behind. But 1981 was her peak. Her follow-up, Cover Plus, spawned Cover Plus, We're All Grown Up, which only hit number 41. The indie charts loved her. Cover Plus reached number 32 there, but the mainstream momentum slipped. Maybe it was the shift from Breaking Glass's raw urgency to a more polished sound. Maybe the punk new wave scene she rode was already mutating, with synth pop and Duran Duran, who opened for her tour by the way, stealing the spotlight. Hazel herself refused to play the commercial game. A 1992 Amazon reviewer nailed it. She wrote, "From the heart and from the gut, never selling her soul to pop's machine." That integrity kept her cult status alive. Glastonbury sets, Here She Comes with Claire Hurst, but it didn't keep her in the top 10. By 1981, Hazel was a comet, bright and fleeting. Will You captures that moment, a song too fragile for punk stages, too honest for pop stardom, with a sax solo that haunts you long after the fade out. It's Hazel at her absolute peak, and that is enough for me. For track 11 today, the needle drops on Randy Crawford's You Might Need Somebody, a song that makes you feel alive in a year when soul music could stop you cold with a single phrase. Fresh off the bittersweet ache of One Day I'll Fly Away, which hit number 2 in the UK in 1980, Crawford returns with a track from her Secret Combination album that trades soaring for something earthier, a song that's less about escape and more about holding fast to connection. It's a warm lived-in sound, like a late-night diner where the coffee's always brewing and the jukebox knows your story. Let's explore this tune from its roots to its charts to its enduring echo in Shola Ama's 1997 cover. Press play now. The song's origins lie with Tom Snow and Nan O'Byrne, who penned it for Turley Richards' 1979 album Furfew. His version nudged number 54 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1980. Solid, but no spark. Then Crawford, with her Macon, Georgia soul and jazz hone piped, took it for Secret Combination, a Warner Brothers release produced by Tommy LaPuma. The session was a who's who of talent. Steve Lukather's guitar solo weaves in like a knowing glance. Jeff Precario's drums keep it crisp. Abram Laboriel Sr.'s bass anchors the groove and the horn section. Larry Williams, Bill Reichenbach, Gary Herbig, Jim Horn and Chuck Findlay adds a sharp brassy edge. Lenny Castro's percussion sprinkles in that extra texture like a breeze through an open window. Crawford's voice is the real story here. She takes the lyrics, when somebody reaches for your heart, open up and let them through, 'cause everybody needs someone to love. Things can tumble down on you, and makes them feel like a letter written just for you. It's not a sermon, it's a quiet truth, delivered with a warmth that's both tender and tough. The song's message about staying open to love despite life's bruises lands because Crawford sings it like she's lived it. The arrangement wraps her voice in soul jazz embrace that's polished but never sterile. In the UK, You Might Need Somebody hit number 11 on the UK singles chart. The album Secret Combination was a juggernaut, peaking at number 2 on the UK albums chart and staying for 60 weeks. Stateside, it reached number 12 on Billboard's Top R&B Albums chart, but the UK claimed Crawford as their own, even handing her the 1982 Brit Award for Best British Female Solo Artist, despite her American roots. The song became a soul staple, the kind that soundtracked late night radio and smoky bars. Then came Sholarama in 1997. A London teenager discovered singing at a tube station. Her cover from her debut Much Love keeps the song soulful core, but dresses it in 90s R&B sheen. Amma's voice, fragile yet forceful, carried her version to number 4 on the UK singles chart, with nearly 2 months in the top 40. It also hit the top 10 in France, Ireland, the Netherlands and New Zealand, and touched number 49 on the US Billboard Dance Club Songs chart. Her Wembley Stadium performance for the 1997 Rugby League Challenge Cup final and a music video that lit up MTV made it a moment. Amma's Hall, Best British Female at the Brits, 2 Mobos, showed her cover wasn't just a nod to Crawford. It was a torch passed, albeit briefly. I bought the Sholarama version of that single. Still, Crawford's version remains the gold standard. Amma's take is youthful, hopeful. Crawford's is wise, weathered, like she's seen the cost of keeping your heart open. The song's legacy stretches further. Think Notting Hill in 1999, where it underscored Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts' romance. But it's Crawford's rendition that sticks, her voice turning simple lyrics into something elemental. For our penultimate song this week, we drift briefly back to 1979. More 80s sax, I Should Coco. Phil Collins, holed up in his Surrey home, the kind of place where the silence makes more noise than any drum fill he ever played with Genesis. His marriage to Andrea Bertorelli is unravelling, the kids are gone, and he's left with a Roland drum machine and a heart full of splinters. This is the crucible that forged Face Value, his 1981 solo debut, and its third single, If Leaving Me Is Easy, released in May of that year. It's the album's rawest exposed nerve. We last saw Phil with I Missed Again, a brassy upbeat jab that hit number 14 in the UK. Now he's not swinging, he's staggering, delivering a ballad that's less a song and more a confessional to oneself in a darkened room at 3 a.m. in the morning. This is track 12, playlist 24. This track, clocking in at just under 5 minutes, is Phil at his most exposed, a man sifting through the debris of a love that slipped through his fingers. It peaked at number 17 on the UK singles chart on May the 30th, 1981, and lingered for 9 weeks. In Ireland, it reached number 25, but the US never got it as a single. Too tender maybe for the airwaves that would later devour Against All Odds. Phil called it one of his favourite songs in a Mail on Sunday interview, but he shelved it live after 1985's No Jacket Required tour. Rowdy crowds wouldn't hush during its delicate verses, shattering the mood. The lyrics are the slowest of slow bleeds. I read all the letters, I read each word that you've sent to me, and though it's past now, and the words start to fade, all the memories I have still remain. It's a man poring over a memory box of the best and worst of a relationship, the kind that keeps you up at 3 a.m, rereading old words for a hint of what went wrong. Later on it cuts deeper. If leaving me is easy, and you know coming back is harder. No histrionics, just the quiet ache of someone who knows the truth but can't stop hoping. It's denial dressed in melody, the sound of a man bargaining with ghosts of his past. Musically, it's a study in less is more. Co-produced with Hugh Padgham, the track leans on soft keys, Alphonso Johnson's understated bass, and Don Myrick's haunting alto sax from Earth, Wind and Fire's Phoenix horns. Eric Clapton's guitar is there too, not the pyrotechnics of Layla, but a muted, mournful hum that fits like a shadow. Daryl Stuermer, Phil's Genesis wingman, adds delicate guitar layers. The arrangement feels like a dimly lit room, intimate and unadorned, with Phil's falsetto in the chorus teetering on the edge of breaking. The Isley Brothers tried their hand at it in 1985 on their Masterpiece album, but their polish couldn't touch Phil's raw edge. This was the first of two Collins-Clapton team-ups, the second being 1989's I Wish It Would Rain Down. Their friendship ran deep. Phil later produced Clapton's Behind the Sun in August, even drumming on tracks. But this song isn't about star power. It's about a guy alone, staring down the wreckage of his life. Face value was Phil's declaration of independence from Genesis prog rock Shadow, and this song is its bruised heart. The album's cover, a tight shot of Phil's face, eyes locked on you, feels like a dare to look away. You can't. By the time Myric's sax fades, you're not just hearing the song, you're sitting in that empty Surrey house with him, wondering how it all fell apart. Let's bring the tempo back up for our last track today, Song 13. Last time we hung out with Odyssey, they were breaking our hearts with If You're Looking for a Way Out, a personal favourite of mine, and that slow burn 1980 soul ballad where Lillian Lopez's voice felt like a velvet glove squeezing your chest. Now, let's fast forward to 1981, and Odyssey's flipping the script with Going Back to My Roots, a disco funk juggernaut that's less about wallowing and more about stomping back to who you are. This isn't a pivot, it's a full-on sprint, and it's one of the most electrifying covers you'll ever hear. This is a lot more than a dance floor banger. It's a song wrestling with identity, ancestry, and the pull of home, all wrapped up in a groove that can make a statue shake its hips. This is track 13, our final song today. Originally, this track belongs to Lamont Dozier, one-third of Motown hit machine Holland Dozier Holland, who dropped it in 1977 on his Peddlin' Music on the Side LP. Dozier's version is a sprawling nearly 10-minute funk odyssey, complete with Afrobeat flourishes and Yoruba chanting, courtesy of co-producer Hugh Masekela and Nigerian saxophonist Orlando Julius. Dozier wrote it for the African-American market, tapping into themes of genealogy and self-discovery, which a lot of folks tied to Alex Haley's Roots, the 1977 TV miniseries. But Dozier himself, he threw a curveball in a 1977 Blues and Soul interview, saying the song was about his literal roots in Detroit, not Africa. He'd moved to LA and kept bouncing back to see family, feeling the tug of home. So, is it about ancestral heritage or just homesickness? The answer's probably both, and that ambiguity's part of the song's magic. Enter Odyssey, the New York City disco trio, Lillian Lopez, Louise Lopez, and new recruit Bill McEachen after Carmen Lopez split. Their 1981 cover, released on May the 1st, take Dozier's sprawling original and tightens it into a 5-minute, 12-inch single that's pure dance floor adrenaline. Produced with that crisp, early 80s sheen, it's got a thumping bass line, spiky guitar licks, and synths that swirl like a disco ball's reflection. Lillian's vocals are front and centre, urgent and soulful, delivering lines like zipping up my boots, going back to my roots, to the place of my birth, back down to earth. These lyrics land like a mission statement. It's about reconnecting with something deeper, your core, your people, your past. The song's release came when Black Americans were grappling with identity post-roots, seeking connection to our African heritage, often severed by history. The Yoruba chants, Ashamore, Ashamore, and Afrobeat rhythms in the extended mix nod to that diaspora, a musical bridge to a homeland many couldn't physically return to. Yet, Odyssey's version leans harder into disco's universal pulse, making it a crossover hit that spoke to black listeners while packing dance floors worldwide. It climbed to number 4 on the UK singles chart in 1981 and hit number 1 in South Africa, with other covers by FPI Project and Linda Clifford also charting later. The song's been sampled and remixed to death. Check whosampled.com for the full scope, but Odyssey's take remains the gold standard. What makes this track stick is how it balances the personal and the collective. Lines like, I've been standing in the rain, drenched and soaked with pain, tired of short-time benefits and being exposed to the elements. It captures a wariness that's both individual and communal, a nod to the struggle of black identity in a world that often demands assimilation. Then comes the resolve, I'm homeward bound, got my head turned around. It's a declaration of reclaiming selfhood. Odyssey's disco gloss doesn't dilute that, it amplifies it, turning introspection into a communal celebration. You can hear it in the way Lillian's voice soars over the bass, like she's leading a congregation to the dance floor. The song's legacy is its elasticity. It's been re-edited by DJs like Ziggy Funk and reimagined by acts like Raz and Afla in 2025, who gave it an Afro house spin that Craig Charles spun on BBC Six Music. It's a song that keeps finding new life, whether in a Tokyo nightclub, as one Reddit user raved about, or in your headphones when you need a jolt of purpose. Odyssey made going back to my roots a statement, a party, and a pilgrimage all at once. You don't just listen to this song, you feel it pulling you somewhere, maybe back to your own roots, wherever they are. So that's that for Playlist 24, folks, and I hope all the 80s content is taking some of you back to your roots, back in the halcyon days of your youth. But stick with us, as in Playlist 25, we break with convention. For the first and probably only time on this pod, we'll be playing a song from June 1981 and its doppelganger from March 1982 as we introduce Elaine Paige and she goes up against Barbra Streisand to decide who had the better rendition of Memory from Cats. We're also spellbound with Susie and the Banshees, in the Chippy with Elvis and Kirsty MacColl, before ending in the river with the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen. It promises to be a hell of a show. If you want to drop us a message to be read out on the pod, you can catch me on all your socials as the 80s Mixtaper, or if you want to email in, it's completed80s@aol.com. Until next time, have a good week. Take care.